Hi guys, today I'm going to be ranking all 36 MCU movies now, since Thunderbolts is now out, or I guess you could say the new Avengers since they're rebranding it to that now. And I have had some change in opinion with some of these movies. So let's get into it. Oh, and also look, I even got prepared. I'm wearing my Marvel shirt. See, there you can see it better. Alright, let's get into it now though. Okay, in last place, we actually have a different movie than last time. In last place this time is Eternals. Yes, it is big team up movie, which makes it kind of cool, but they die immediately. At least most of them die immediately. Like, it's just so annoying, man. Really annoying. Really annoying. And also, like, we haven't seen them since then. And at the end they say, oh, the Eternals will return. But, hey, it's been a while since the movie came out. How come they haven't returned? Oh, wait, probably because the movie did crap. But yeah, this is pretty bad. It's definitely the worst MCU movie now, in my opinion. Alright, next in number 33, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. This one, probably everyone hates. Like, if you like this movie, then you have to be insane. Like, the CGI is so bad, and there's way too many jokes. Like, they just throw jokes left and right. And you're probably like, oh, well, in Thor Ragnarok, they also did jokes. But at least at some point in that movie, they were actually also being serious. And this one, like, it's like Thor doesn't know how to be serious or something. Like, it's just jokes after jokes after jokes. Like, and also, I can't get over that one really bad CGI part. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, this is definitely another really bad movie. Definitely deserves to be in this spot. Alright, next number 34, we have Captain Marvel. This movie was also really bad, honestly, in my opinion. Right after Infinity War, it's just a little weird to do that right after Infinity War. Like, this takes place way back then and all that stuff. And once again, like last time, I know some of you might be just coming from the last video or something like that. And you're like, stop explaining it again. But if you guys are new, I'm still gonna explain it. I'm sorry. This was not a very good movie. Like, in most of the parts, it was bad. There was some good parts, but most of it was just bad. It wasn't really that cool at all. So I feel like it deserves this spot. Alright, next we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Another really bad movie. And at the time, this was kind of getting me excited for Kang Dynasty, but, yeah, we all know what happened. Yeah, they fired him for obvious reasons. You can look it up. I'm not gonna say it, though. And then, yes, they did replace him with Doctor Doom, which I am kind of happy they did, but then that made this movie seem really bad now. And I'm gonna be honest, in 2 years, this movie, probably no one will remember, honestly, because of how bad it is now. And also, MODOK, don't get me over that. It just looked so bad, man. That design, man, that looked so bad. But yeah, this is a really bad movie also. And obviously, I really like Marvel. That's why I have this shirt once again. But this movie is really bad. It's hard to even tell that it's Marvel. It seems like just some really stupid YTP or something like that. Not even joking. So yeah, I think it deserves this place. Alright, next we have The Marvels. This movie was another pretty bad movie. And, like, I feel like at some points it's pretty stupid. Like when the cat comes to Miss Marvel's house. Don't get me over that, man. Yikes. And like the story on how Miss Marvel like wanted to meet Captain Marvel and freaking writing comics and all that stuff. And I feel like the ending was cool, like Monica Rambeau getting sent to another universe, and then the post-credit scene we see Beast, Kelsey Grammer Beast, which they used CGI this time and made him look really comic accurate and really cool. And hopefully, in Avengers Doomsday, we're gonna be seeing him. I wonder if we're gonna be seeing Monica Rambeau also, since she was in that room with him. But I don't know yet. We'll see. That's still in like Avengers Doomsday is still a long time. It's like another year from now. So yeah, but that was probably the only good part of it. Everything else is pretty bad in my opinion. The only reason like this movie was good the first time I saw it was because I was with my friends, and I love being with my friends. So that's the only thing that really made it fun. But the movie itself, not very good in my opinion. Yeah, not very good. Yeah, no. So I think it deserves to be in this place. Alright, next up we have the original Ant-Man and the Wasp. I know I'm a lot lower than other people on this movie, but in my opinion, it's pretty boring and all that stuff. Like, it just seems like a worse version of the first movie, honestly. Definitely not the best movie. I mean, it's cool seeing, like, at the end, like, what happened when Thanos snapped, when Ant-Man was doing something. When that happened, that was sort of cool, but everything else is just, not very good, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it deserves this spot. Alright, next up in number 30, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Once again, this movie was another pretty bad one. And like, it seems like it's trying to be a Doctor Strange movie, but also a Scarlet Witch movie. It seems like they're like fighting over whose movie it is or something. And I liked the part where you have like the Illuminati and you see all the other members of the Illuminati. Yeah, like that was cool. And seeing Mr. Fantastic for the first time in the MCU, and Professor X. That was pretty cool. And all the other characters, like that universe's Captain Marvel and also Captain Carter. That was pretty cool, but then they died basically immediately. So yeah, I don't think that makes up for it at all. They die pretty much immediately. And that part where Professor X is trying to save the Scarlet Witch, like the nice side of her, that looks like a kid made it. Not even joking. I'm sorry. It kind of does, honestly. So this is a pretty bad movie. Definitely one of the worst ones. I mean, it was good the first time I watched it, but now it doesn't seem very good at all. So yeah, I think it deserves this spot. Alright, next up we have Shang-Chi. I know last time I put this one lower, but now that we've gotten to see that Shang-Chi is going to be returning in Avengers Doomsday, I'm pretty excited. Because, the first time I watched this video, I liked it. And I liked the character and all that stuff, but now it's kind of bad. But hey, at least when we were watching the trailer thing, where it showed all the cast on chairs, like all their names, not all of the cast, obviously, just most. And Simu Liu, I don't know how you say his name really, but we saw his name on one of the chairs, and he's finally going to be returning. But still, this movie itself is not that good, and it's kind of weird how they put Abomination in it. Like, what does he have to do with this? Like, it's kind of weird. But I don't really like this movie, in my opinion. It's a meh movie. But yeah, I think it deserves this spot, in my opinion. So yeah. Alright, next up we have Thor: The Dark World. This one was another really bad one. At the time I was excited for a new Thor movie, but we got this really bad. Really do not like it that much. It was a pretty bad sequel to Thor. I mean, it's better than Thor: Love and Thunder, don't get me wrong. You know, that one was really bad. But this one is still pretty bad. It's better, but it's still pretty bad. But yeah, it was kind of weird. It was like we had a really good movie before this, the original Avengers, and then you go to this, which was really bad. So yeah, I think it deserves this spot, in my opinion. Alright, next up we have Black Widow. I know last time I said this was last place, but now that Thunderbolts is out and we got a sequel to most of the stuff in Black Widow, I kind of like it more. And I've rewatched it a couple of times, and I noticed it's not as bad as I thought it was. Still pretty bad, but it's cool how we got to see Yelena and Red Guardian and Taskmaster, who died in the matter of 2 seconds, if you know what I mean. Yeah, you probably know. But yeah, it was cool seeing them in the movie. So it makes me respect this movie more than I did before. But it's still a pretty bad movie, in my opinion. But number 27 is better than number 36. So at least it's not that low like it was last time. But yeah, I think it is a little bit better now, in my opinion. So I think it deserves this spot. Alright, next we have Spider-Man Homecoming. This was a sort of good movie, but I feel like the way that Vulture became Spider-Man's villain is pretty stupid. And this is definitely one of the worst Spider-Man movies. And it's just and he had a different girlfriend back then. And when you look back at this now that Zendaya is his girlfriend, is kind of just okay. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But yeah, I think this is definitely the worst out of all three of the Spider-Man movies in the MCU. But yeah, I think it deserves this spot, in my opinion. Alright, next up, we have the original Ant-Man. This was a good movie, but not the best movie, definitely. And I'm not the biggest fan of Ant-Man in general. No pun intended. Since he's small. You know what I mean? Okay, that was a terrible joke. That wasn't even on purpose in the first place. But yeah, I feel like they definitely could have done better with this. But it was still a pretty good movie. Definitely good for a solo movie. But yeah, I think it deserves this spot still. So yeah. Alright, next up we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I still think that this is the worst out of all three of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, in my opinion. But it's still a pretty good movie. It was cool seeing Ego, the living planet. And it was cool seeing Yondu become a good guy, but then he dies. Or should I say Mary Poppins? You remember, because Star-Lord said he looks like Mary Poppins. But yeah, I don't think this is a terrible movie, but I still think it's the worst out of all three of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But it's still a pretty good movie overall. But yeah. Alright, number 23, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. This one was okay, I guess. But it was a little stupid, not stupid. And also, it's just like the villain, Mysterio, and him and Spider-Man barely even get to have that cool of a fight at the end. Honestly, and it was kind of weird how they did it at daytime for like one of the first times ever. But yeah, this is still better than Homecoming, but definitely not the best Spider-Man movie. I still recommend you watch it though if you haven't, even though I just spoiled it, probably. But yeah, it's a pretty good movie. But yeah, I think it still deserves a spot, just because there's some pretty stupid parts in it. Like, if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But yeah, it was still a pretty good movie because I like Spider-Man. I really do. Probably like my fourth favorite Marvel character. But yeah, I think it deserves this spot. Alright, next up we have Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I think this was a pretty good movie, but it's sad how they had to replace Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace. He was a great actor and really great as Black Panther. But it was also really nice how they tried to pay respect to him while also making sense in the movie universe instead of like real life. It's nice how they made it work both ways. But I feel like you can't really replace him because I feel like he was really good as Black Panther. But I do like how his sister is the new Black Panther. And I also did like Namor in the movie. He was a pretty good villain. And we're going to be seeing him in Avengers Doomsday. Same with M'Baku. We're going to be seeing both of them. But yeah, I think this was a pretty good movie overall. But definitely not one of the best ones. But yeah, it was pretty good. Alright, next we have the original Thor, one of the classics. I like Thor, but this movie still wasn't the best movie ever. Definitely not. But this was still a pretty good movie, and that part with Stanley when he was trying to use his truck to lift the hammer was kind of funny also. But yeah, I think this was a pretty good movie overall. And I'm pretty sure after this we actually got Avengers, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. And I think it deserves this spot. Yeah, that's all I really gotta say about it. I don't know what else to say. It was definitely a good movie for its time, but now we've moved on way far from that. So I think it deserves this spot, so yeah. Alright, next we have the original Doctor Strange. I think this was a pretty good movie also, and I remember watching it when I was like 6 years old. Those were the days, man. And I think this is a good movie still, but not as good as it was back then. Definitely better than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, for sure. This one's definitely better. But still not one of the best movies ever. But I still recommend watching it. And here's a reminder. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. If you get it, you get it. That part was making me laugh like crazy. You just non-stop putting him in a loop. Just like, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Oh, I died. Let's try again. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Oh, I've died. Let's try again. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. It's really funny, that part, but also very intense. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. Alright, next we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was a pretty good send-off to the Guardians, and probably one of the best movies post-Avengers Endgame. And all of that. It was pretty cool. Seeing the backstory behind Rocket also. It was pretty cool, but also pretty sad. But yeah, I think this was a pretty good movie overall. Definitely good for post-Avengers Endgame. Like, I think it's one of the best movies post-Avengers Endgame, not gonna lie. But, like, out of all the movies, definitely not one of the, like, really best ones ever. But I still think it was a pretty good movie. But yeah, this was pretty cool. Alright, next we have the original Black Panther. The first time I watched this, I didn't like it as much as I do now, but I feel like after Chadwick Boseman passing, I kind of like it more. And I like the villain Killmonger. He was a pretty cool villain. And all that stuff, and seeing the two Black Panthers fight, him and Killmonger just fighting, and then he pushes him off the edge, and that was cool. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie now. It's definitely better than it was back then. Alright, next we have Iron Man 3. This is definitely the worst out of all of the Iron Man movies, but it's still a pretty good movie overall. I feel like it's a little bit overhated in my opinion, but I think it was pretty cool. But yeah, I feel like it's really overhated. I really liked it, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good movie. Alright, next we have the first movie, if you're watching in chronological order, Captain America, the First Avenger. This was a really cool backstory behind Captain America, and seeing him really skinny, like I said last time, and seeing Bucky fall off, and eventually in the future we saw Hydra got him and turned him into the Winter Soldier, which is kind of scary. And at the time we thought he died. Like, it was kind of scary. And also seeing Red Skull as a villain, that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. Plus, it's one of the OGs. But yeah. Alright, next we have Iron Man 2. This one was also a really cool one. And it's another one of the OGs. I'm pretty sure this was actually in Phase 1, and it was before even the first Avengers movie came out. And it was pretty good for its time, and the CGI back then seemed really good. But now you look at Marvel movies that have like crazy CGI, not including like Thor, Love and Thunder, or Black Widow, or Quantumania. But yeah, I think this was a pretty good movie for its time and still now. But yeah, it was a pretty good movie. Okay, once again, here's where it might get a bit controversial. In number 14, we have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I still don't get why people love this movie so much. It's literally just like, in my opinion, it's literally just another Captain America movie with one of his old friends as a villain who became a villain and lost all his memory before that. I still think it's like overrated and super overrated in my opinion. Like, I've seen people put this in number one, and I'm always just like, what's so good about this movie? Like, it's literally just another Captain America movie. Like, bruh. But I still think it was a pretty good movie. Just not, like, number one or number two or number three like other people do it sometimes. But yeah, this was still a good movie, but definitely not number one or something like that. Alright, next we have the original Guardians of the Galaxy. This was another really good movie. The second team up we got to see in the MCU after the Avengers. And I think it was a pretty good movie, and seeing the backstory behind Star-Lord ended up in space and finding all his teammates and all that stuff. And seeing how they came up with the name at the end. When they kill Ronan. Just like, we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. Alright, next in number 12 we have Avengers Age of Ultron. This was definitely the worst out of all four the Avengers movies we've seen so far. But it's definitely not like a terrible movie. But I feel like it was definitely the worst out of all the Avengers movies. But out of all the MCU movies, it's still pretty good. Not gonna lie. And seeing that part where Hulkbuster and Hulk finally get to fight, that was really cool. And seeing Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for the first time, even though Quicksilver dies in this movie already. And then he played Kraven the Hunter in the Sony Spider-Man universe, which is pretty trash. And I ranked those movies a couple videos ago also. And I'm gonna be serious, those were all pretty bad. But I feel like Age of Ultron was a pretty good movie, just definitely the worst out of all for the Avengers movies. And seeing Ultron as a villain, that was also pretty cool. And seeing everyone try to lift Mjolnir. But yeah, I think this was still a pretty good movie. Alright, next up in number 11 we have Thor Ragnarok. Definitely the best out of all for four of the Thor movies. And it's cool how we get to see Hulk in the movie and all that stuff. And I liked seeing them fight. And seeing Mjolnir getting destroyed by Hela. But yeah, this was a pretty good movie, in my opinion. And seeing Loki become a good guy, sort of. But yeah, I think this is definitely the best out of all four of the Thor movies, for sure. Alright, next we have the first Iron Man, the movie that started this entire universe. We would be nowhere without this movie. This was a pretty good movie, a really good OG movie. And once again, its CGI is pretty good for its time, not gonna lie. And I really liked seeing how Tony Stark became Iron Man. And at the end, seeing him say, well, the truth is, I am Iron Man. And then eventually in the future, in Avengers Endgame, we see him say that line, his famous line again for his last words, saying, I am Iron Man. But yeah, this was a pretty good movie, very OG movie. And it was really good for its time and now. It was definitely better back then, but it's still pretty good now, not gonna lie. But yeah. Alright, next we have one that has gone lower. Captain America Brave New World. Last time I had this like in number 5, but now it's gotten a little bit lower since it's been a while since it's come out now. And I'm starting to feel like back then I was I'm kind of over exaggerating how good it was, but I still think it's really good. Don't get me wrong. Kind of like a sequel to the Incredible Hulk, Eternals, and the Captain America and or Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, just like all combined into one. Except one of them is really bad, which is Eternals. But yeah, it was a pretty cool movie. Seeing Red Hulk and Leader, and seeing Betty Ross come back when General Ross is in jail, and then seeing Captain America and Red Hulk fight, and then also seeing Sidewinder was pretty cool. But it's definitely gotten worse since last time. But it was also pretty cool seeing them tease Avengers Doomsday in the post-credit scene and all that. But yeah, it's definitely lower than last time, but still a pretty good movie in my opinion. Alright, next we have Captain America Civil War. This was a really good movie, the first movie of the Infinity Saga, and seeing Iron Man and Captain America's team fight was really cool. And all that stuff was cool. Seeing Spider-Man finally in the MCU, Black Panther finally in the MCU, all that stuff. And then seeing the two teams fight each other. But yeah, this was a really good movie in my opinion. Highly recommend watching it if you haven't somehow, and you're watching this video. I don't know why you would be if you haven't seen all MCU movies, but yeah. But yeah, this is definitely the best Captain America movie in my opinion now. Alright, now we have another movie that has sort of gone down, but just by one. We have Spider-Man No Way Home. I feel like this movie gets worse every time you watch it, sort of. And I'm starting to notice that, but I still think it's a really good movie. Seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come back and help Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And they fight Andrew's and Tobey's past villains. Like Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Electro, Lizard, and Green Goblin. That was pretty cool. And yeah, I think this is a pretty good movie. Alright, next we have Deadpool and Wolverine, the only R-rated movie on this list. This was a really good movie, even though it's like only like 2 main characters instead of like 6 like an Avengers movie or something. This was really cool, especially as someone who used to also watch the Fox Marvel movies, not just the MCU, and seeing, you know, Deadpool come back, Wolverine come back, obviously, and then they go to the Void and find other old characters. And by the way, once again, I'm 14, almost turning 15, so, you know, I wasn't really scared of this, really, even though it's R-rated. But yeah, I really do like this movie. It was really cool, and I feel like this definitely revived the MCU in my opinion. Okay, here's another one where it's definitely gonna get controversial. The Incredible Hulk. I really like the Hulk, so that adds to it, and I really thought this movie was cool, especially the end, seeing Abomination and Hulk fight at it and all that stuff. That was really cool. And then we also saw General Ross for the first time, and Samuel Stearns, who eventually became the leader in Captain America Brave New World, obviously. And then also Betty and all that stuff, and seeing General Ross and his soldiers trying to attack Hulk at first, but then they eventually help him at the end. That was pretty cool. And also seeing that I think it was a post-credit scene where like General Ross is at the bar, and then Tony comes there, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I feel like this movie is really underrated. I really like this movie, especially for its time. It was really good, even though Edward Norton played in the movie, which he was originally supposed to always play Hulk, but he was really annoying because he wanted to write everything for the movie because he didn't like the script that the other people wrote for the movie, which was kind of stupid. So they eventually fired him and got Mark Ruffalo, which I do like him more, not gonna lie. But yeah, when you rewatch this movie, it is a little bit weird because of that. But in my opinion, I still like it. It's definitely one of my favorite MCU films. Plus, I really like Hulk. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely underrated in my opinion. Alright, next we have the newest movie, Thunderbolts. Or you could say the new Avengers, since they're rebranding it to that in a lot of places. But yeah, I just saw this movie about 3 days ago with two of my friends, and I think it was a really cool movie. And seeing their own stories by themselves first and all that stuff, but then all of them meet up, like Yelena Belova and Black Widow, Ghost, John Walker, Captain America, the Red Guardian, Taskmaster, even though once again she dies within the matter of 2 seconds, literally. And Winter Soldier, all of them. That was really cool. Oh, and also Sentry as a main villain, or the Void. And then in the first post-credit scene, we see them on a cereal box, which is kind of funny, because like when I saw one of the covers for the movie, I was like, wait, this looks like it would be on a cereal box, and I thought I was just being insane at first, but nope, I was not. That's what they tried to make it look like. And then the second post-credit scene, 14 months later, seeing they changed all of their suits and all that stuff. And then we see the Fantastic Four coming down to Earth, which was really cool. It's got me very excited for Fantastic Four First Steps, which I think is going to be another really good movie. But yeah, this is a really good movie in my opinion. I really like it. The Thunderbolts! But yeah, I really liked this movie. Alright, next we have the original Avengers. One of the classics. The first ever team-up movie in the MCU. I think this was a really cool movie. And seeing Loki invade New York, Manhattan. And then they finally team up for the first time ever. And accidentally change Stark Tower into Avengers Tower, since all the letters fall off except for the A. And then they always say, they said we avenged him. So they were like, wait, A? Avengers? And then they eventually, in other movies, they change it to the Avengers A that we all know and love. But yeah, this was a really good movie. And also seeing just Hulk being like, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. That was a really cool scene. And the Avengers Assemble scene, was crazy. And all that stuff. But yeah, this was a really good movie for its time. Alright, next we have Avengers Infinity War. This was a really good movie. Very good movie. I really liked it at the time. It blew my mind in 2 ways. Both, it was a very good movie, and also seeing everyone freaking get snapped out of existence. That was crazy. But yeah, this was a very good movie. And seeing the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Wakandans, the Avengers, all of them team up to fight Thanos. even though the Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of on accident. They accidentally meet up. But yeah, this was a really fun movie in my opinion. And I feel like this is going to be rewatchable for like the rest of my life, honestly. And you guys probably know it's going to be number one once again. This is probably always going to be true, but yeah. Alright, as you guessed, in number one we have Avengers Endgame. This was the best movie ever, in my opinion. And I really think it's crazy at the end, especially seeing everyone come back and all that through the portals, and also seeing Captain America lift Mjolnir, and then the Avengers assemble scene was crazy. Just like Avengers assemble. You know what I'm imitating. That was a crazy scene that freaking was like so exciting back then. And I was like screaming when that happened in the movie theater, and I honestly lost my voice. But obviously there are some sad parts, like Black Widow dying, and then at the end Iron Man dying, and then Captain America going back in time and retiring and all that stuff. Well, Steve Rogers, Captain America, obviously. And then Falcon became the new Captain America, which was cool. Well, yeah, this is definitely the best MCU movie in my opinion, and it probably always will be. But yeah, that was my updated ranking of all 36 MCU movies. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.